Well, hallelujah. Praise the Lord. Thank you, Jesus. What a beautiful day. We're outside today on the deck, and I tell you, I feel great today. I've started a new supplement, and I love them. Now, and we are going to prepare our garden today. I'm helping Ted and Sherry be fun, and I don't know if he's going to get it all done today, but we're certainly going to give it a start. And Sherry got some baby chickens. So hers are, what, 2 weeks old?
3.
3 weeks old. Mine just turned a year old, probably, well, would be April the 6th. They'll be 1 year old, so they're real cute. We enjoy them. We are going to discuss deception, but first we have some information that we want to get to you, and I'm just going to hand it right over to Ted. How are you doing today?
I'm doing terrific. It's good
Seriously?
good to be back.
What is going on?
There's so many exciting things going on, and you know, understand we basically want to give you the current events that are happening and try and make some sense of it, and through the perspective of the puzzle and how that gives us information of how we look at prophecy, helps us interpret what is happening and most likely what's going to happen next. And we're going to make some predictions of events that we may see soon. Some of them may take a while to happen.
Just our perspective, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because we really have been looking at this, and we've been talking about it in different ways. And you've said you've got several other people that you have read their books and you've looked at their scenario, and it does some of it just doesn't line up. So, sorry,
yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, like Bill Salas, I love the guy. I love his work. I think he's in his book about Elam. He might be exactly right. We may be seeing Israel maybe taking out that reactor in Elam, which is in southwest Iran. And if that would be a nuclear accident, that could create a problem that would scatter the Elamites all over the world to get away from the radiation. Before I thought this would probably be an event that would happen during the Magog invasion. If you've seen our other presentations, you know that I put the timing of that event at just before the midpoint of the tribulation period. So I would now say, looking at Israel getting ready maybe to do a strike against this reactor, Bill Salas may be exactly right, that this may be an event we may see very soon. That's one of the current events, is this described in Jeremiah 49:34 through 39, this destruction of Elam and them scattered over the world. This could be something that we may see really soon happening to prevent Iran from getting the nuclear bomb, which Israel knows could be their death sentence.
Yeah, how crazy is that?
Well, ultimately we know God would not allow it, but still Israel has to proceed to protect itself. And God will enable Israel to do that, or God will take it out another way. I mean, it could be hail and fire coming out of heaven to destroy it.
Right.
We don't know the exact timing of this event. It's just possible we might see this very soon. And we thank Bill Salas for his work. The Magog invasion is a mid-trib event. The Psalm 83, a book that he wrote, he would put that way pre-trib, where I think it is what's going to bring the beginning of the tribulation period, a small use of nuclear weapons by Israel against the nations that touch borders with Israel to try and take the land away from Israel, and Israel will be victorious over them with the IDF. That is the most likely way, as we've explained in other videos about how the puzzle fits together. But we want to talk about some of the other current events. And Putin is becoming more and more aggressive, especially with connection with Iran. And we see Iran becoming more and more aggressive, trying to take over portions of what is called Islam today. They're moving into Yemen. Is an Iranian takeover and an encroachment on the Syrian Peninsula. The Syrian Peninsula has Mecca, which is the most holy site in all of Islam. So if you want to rule Islam, you need to control Mecca. And militarily, it does look like Iran is trying to move towards taking over Mecca, coming through Yemen, crossing that Strait of Hormuz, which possibly could be stopped by this event of this reactor being destroyed and or something being done to prevent that from happening, either by Saudi Arabia or by Israel. And that's a scenario that it could go either way. We don't know how well that's going to take place, but what you have today is a move to take over Islam or Mecca by Yemen or through Yemen by Iran, backed by Russia. Or you also have Turkey helping arming ISIS, the Sunni side of Islam, to take over all of Islam. So what you have is two sides of Islam trying to be the predominant, with Saudi Arabia, which does control Mecca, and Jordan in the middle. Now, Jordan is the key. I believe to keep your eyes on Jordan is to look at the part of the prophecy puzzle that is so important, because I believe they are the ones that are going to play the mediator in this whole power struggle that's going on in the Middle East that's escalating. It's going to continue escalating with Russia and with Iran and with ISIS and North Africa. Everything is coming to a head. And understand, that's what's necessary for a certain chain of events to take place by this man of sin who's going to rise. Now, I wanted to talk about this, possibly who this man of sin is. I am so thankful for some work by Mr. Van Covering in his book, Man of Sin Revealed. I believe that he probably is correct. I can't say absolutely, but in my opinion, he has done the work.
In your lab, right there.
Ooh, a little spider. Go away, spider.
Well, I've been outside and have insects every once in a while, so bear with us.
Yeah. Anyways, Mr. Van Covering wrote a book back in, gosh, I don't even remember what date it was, so 2007 or, I think it was
2007 or 8.
Yeah, 2007 or 8. Mr. Van Covering did a book called Man of Sin Revealed, and it was exposing this guy called Hassan ben Talal. Now, Hassan ben Talal is the uncle of King Abdullah. It was the brother of King Hussein of Jordan. He's the one who drafted and did most of the work on Oslo I and II to bring the peace treaty and to control the Temple Mount in Israel. So Jordan played a major role in, first militarily, they controlled the West Bank and they controlled the Temple Mount. And when it was lost in the Six-Day War, and then Yom Kippur War was the last attempt by Jordan to try and take it over, what you saw was a power shift, and then Jordan drafted this Oslo I and II to make peace with the whole thing with Israel and the Palestinians and Jordan's involvement, which established the Palestinian Authority. It basically is what brought Arafat to power. And then Jordan really lost control of the Temple Mount to the Palestinian Authority. But the document called Oslo I and then Oslo II establishes a Palestinian state with a 5-year timeline, which failed. Today it's called the two-state solution. And it's in the forefront of politics right now with what we see happening. We're so thankful that so many Christian prayers, I think there was more prayers for the election in Israel than there was for our own election, simply because we didn't have a godly man to vote for. You saw a lot of Christians not even go to the polls because of not wanting, having no good choice. We're praying we have a better choice in this next election. But anyway, back to the subject of this Man of Sin Revealed, this book by Joe Van Covering, is this very interesting character called Hassan ben Talal. And he has been on the scene working in many factions to bring a one-world government, a one-world church, and a one-world economy behind the scenes. Now, I've been watching the ecumenical movement, which was a document where Catholicism was trying to bring Christianity back in and become one, and many good Christian pastors actually signed it, and it created quite a debate back in the mid-90s. And I did not know that the man behind that was a Muslim named Hassan ben Talal. And I did not know that he was the mover and shaker in the interfaith movement, which would then bring Islam and all the other world religions in unity with Catholicism and Christianity. This was the move towards a one world religion. And he has been the major leader in that. He's also been called the greatest humanitarian because he's been one of the ones that's done so much to try and help all the refugees from war-torn Middle East. So he's heralded as a great humanitarian. He's also heralded as the great leader in the United Nations to protect the planet from global warming. So when you see the global warming people coming out to save the planet, their god, goddess Gaia, the man behind was Hassan. When you see the One World Church rising through this emerging of all the churches in Islam, the man behind it was Hassan. When you see the peace treaty and the declaration for a two-state solution, the man behind it has been Hassan. He's been moving in all these circles, and now he's come out in just at the turn of this year, in the end of 2014. I think it was like one day before the turn of the year 2015. He made a long interview on Vatican Radio. And in that interview, it's on the internet, Hassan ben Talal, and you can find him on Vatican Radio. He makes several statements of what he sees going on with the problem of the refugees and the problems of the violence going on in the Middle East. And he is calling for a Shia, a Vatican-style Shia. Now what that means is a giant conference of all of Islam designed after the Vatican's coming together of one. He wants to bring Islam to come together with one and the Vatican, and he wants to be the mediator of this in Mecca. So understand right now what we've got is we have this Hassan ben Talal, who is of the 42nd generation from Muhammad, just as Jesus Christ
Abraham
was the 42nd generation from Abraham. And it says the Antichrist will worship a god of fortresses. Now, in my opinion, that's American military technology and world military technology, that this Antichrist is going to pay a tremendous amount of money so that he can regain all of this military technology to be the power in the Middle East, to be able to back up his promise of peace for Israel and all of Islam. So what I'm expecting to see is Jordan is going to become a very close ally with the United States, which it already is, and becoming to play more and more of a bigger role of the mediator between ISIS and Iran. And we're expecting to see more of this agenda being marched to as Hassan. See, because what you have is Iran is trying to militarily take over Mecca. And you have ISIS trying to take the Sunni side, which already has Mecca, and make it rule over all of Islam. They want to do it militarily. This man, Hassan, wants to take it over politically. So he's going to control Mecca politically. Now, one of the descriptions of the Antichrist is that he comes riding in on a white horse with a bow and no arrows, which means he comes in with military might, but he doesn't go to war. His move is through peace. He will control, and that is one of the descriptions. Now, another interesting thing about this man is many Bible scholars think he has to come from Rome. He can't come out of Islam. Well, I think that's a misconception. But one thing that's interesting about him is he was the president of the Club of Rome. And I believe now he's honorary president of the Club of Rome. They're very secretive as to who is their honorary president. And there's like two presidents and an honorary president. And we know Hassan is still at least one of them.
Yeah, they're just not letting us know.
Well, yeah, they're kind of keeping that secret. I think they have their own reasoning why.
Yeah, but I actually went to the website and tried to find the list.
So did I.
And it's not there.
It's not there.
It's not there.
They're hiding who's their president now, but we know Hassan was president, and they have an honorary president, so he's one of them. And this is a think tank, and this think tank tells the European Union what to do. And they also tell the United Nations what to do. And they also pull strings in our politics as well. So these are the movers and shakers of the world. These are the people that are going to be directly connected with the 10 kings that are going to rule the world with Antichrist. And this Club of Rome, him being the president, is showing that he is really a Roman, even though he's of Islamic descent, and he's the one that can bring peace between Sunni and Shiite. And they're not going to believe anybody's their leader but a man that can claim to be the Mahdi, who has a direct lineage to Muhammad.
Exactly. Good point.
And so we're seeing all these pieces of the puzzle coming together, and we're seeing the possibility of something called Oslo III. Now, this is my opinion, that Oslo III will be the establishment of a Palestinian state. So what we're looking for next is to see Jordan become the next military leader in the Middle East, and for Hassan ben Talal to officiate between Shiite and Sunni, and the refugee zones he wants to create from this Shia is strips of land along the borders of Syria and Iraq, and also Syria and Turkey. He does not mention the border of Israel, because I believe the West Bank is that zone. But what he wants is to have all the refugees, and he doesn't want to make refugee camps. He says, I don't like refugee camps. I want to create refugee zones where cities can be built for all of these people that are being, run out of their homelands because of this war, to be a humanitarian move, to save them, to keep them in a safe place, but not to encroach upon Jordanian soil.
Isn't that what he calls them, humanitarian zones?
Yes.
Okay.
He is called through the United Nations, one of the greatest humanitarians, and he's got so many awards, and he's been working behind the scenes in every aspect of the United Nations, but mostly in global warming, in bringing world religions together, to create a one world government and a one world church. And he's also very connected with banking and controlling towards a move of a one world bank through the United Nations. So he's basically tying all the ribbons together, and he's very close to the Pope. In fact, he's working hand in hand with the Pope to bring the one world church together, and that's why he calls this Shia a Vatican style Shia. Now, what we're hinting here is that this man most likely is the Antichrist, and the Pope is most likely his false prophet, who will be able to perform miracles. He will be able to make fire rain down upon the enemies. Now, the 4 stipulations of why Netanyahu will not, and I repeat, will not establish a Palestinian state, the 4 reasons are this: Israel has to keep a corridor along the Jordan River, and that is not stipulated in Oslo II, so that they can keep their borders secure. They also, Abbas and the Palestinian Authority is connected with Hamas, a terrorist organization. They cannot have a treaty with this man, so Abbas has to go. Now, is he going to die? I think possibly something's going to happen to him, but most likely the Palestinian Authority is going to diminish, and the authority over the Temple Mount will revert back to Jordan and Hassan. That is the most likely scenario. Either that, or Abbas has to be gone, and the Palestinian Authority gets a leader who seems to be more peace-minded and who is willing to make the 3rd stipulation, that Israel has a right to exist. So I believe that's, let's see, a corridor is one stipulation. Israel has a right to exist. Abbas and Hamas gone. And what's the 4th one? I keep forgetting. And Abbas has to be gone.
The right to build their temple, right?
Oh, the last and most important, Israel will never give up full control of Jerusalem. You cannot divide Jerusalem. Now, in the Oslo Accord, written by Hassan ben Talal, half of Jerusalem has to be divided in half. The east side, containing the Temple Mount and the old city of Jerusalem, would retain in the hands of this Palestinian Authority. Understand, Netanyahu said over and over again, you cannot divide Jerusalem. The Zionist dream is Jerusalem is the capital of Israel forever. We know that eventually half of Jerusalem will be taken by force in a battle. We believe that battle is Psalm 83, and it's going to come later. And that's when the covenant's going to be confirmed. But right now, what we possibly could see very, very soon is the covenant established by Hassan ben Talal, allowing Israel the right to keep Jerusalem, but the Palestinian Authority or Jordan to control the Temple Mount completely. Then the Jews can rebuild their temple, and if this book by Bill Kornig is correct, then the temple is going to be rebuilt in the old city of Jerusalem, not on the Temple Mount. So the Palestinians, they can have the whole Temple Mount, the Wailing Wall and all of it. It won't matter to the Jews, because if they embrace that the temple is in the old city of David, next to the spring of Gihon, where the threshing floor of Ornan was, that they rebuild their temple there, and possibly, say possibly, the Ark of the Covenant being brought out of its hiding place and placed behind the veil of a rebuilt temple. The next thing that's going to happen is all the Jews around the world that are not in Israel are wanting to go home.
Yep.
And we will see 6 million exit visas from the United States. There's 6 million Jews in Israel. There's 6 million Jews here. They're all going to want to go home.
And so that's what you were talking about. This guy knows this. He sees it coming, so that's why he's wanting to do these zones, these humanitarian zones.
Exactly.
Wow.
So you're going to see Jordan as the leader with these zones all around Jordan for all the refugees, and all the Jews are going to go home, and they're going to have Jerusalem as their capital,
wow.
and the Palestinians will have the West Bank as their zone. But they're going to be upset because they really want half the city of Jerusalem and full control of all the land around the Temple Mount, not just the Temple Mount itself. So when all these Jews start flooding in and they start to have sacrifice, the Palestinians are not going to like it. And understand, if that's the case, Jerusalem will be surrounded on 3 sides by an enemy who wants to take it over. That is going to make all world politics focus on the city of Jerusalem. And it says in Zechariah 12 that it will be a cup of drunkenness or madness to any nation that would try to, it says heave it away, but the meaning of that heave it away is to chop it up or to divide it. So right now, Obama is trying to force a 2-state solution and divide Jerusalem. He's bringing a cup of drunkenness to our nation by trying to do that. France declared it a few months ago, or 3 or 4 months ago now, and as soon as they did, their nation got swept with terrorism, and there were radical Islamics trying to kill policemen, and they were killing policemen and newspapermen and Jews, and now anti-Semitism is raging through Europe, and Netanyahu is telling all the Jews of Europe, come home, come home. He's opening the doors for them to come and to live in safety and peace and safety in Israel. Now understand that peace and safety will not really come until Jesus Christ. There's going to be many so-called solutions to the problem, but none of them will be the solution until Christ comes back as Israel's king.
Yep.
And this 2-state solution is no solution. There are many Bible scholars that think it will never happen. But understand, in Joel 3 it says that God's going to come back and judge the nations because you've divided my land. And I believe that is the 2-state solution. So I believe it is going to happen, even though Netanyahu does not want to do it, no way, shape, but he has had to say, well, these are the reasons. If those reasons are met, then that means it could happen, and it could be in the works in the next few years. We could see that happen. That's kind of what I see happening, along with much more in deception in the churches today, which you want to discuss on another video.
Yep. I think that he explained it really well. I wanted to get this out to you because I thought it was pretty pertinent information, and I hope you enjoyed it. And it's getting hot, so we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.